And we are live. Happy live Monday to you all. My name is Laura Cantu and I'm back. I wasn't here last week. Sorry about that. David took over and he did a great job. So congratulations, David. Thank you so much for taking over the live stream Monday that we do here on YouTube and on Facebook. And I also want to say, get used to the flip-flopping and, maybe seeing David's face sometime or my face during the live streams because, we are a team. So eventually you'll see me, you'll see David. But whoever the host is, the information is just going to be just as good. It's going to be just as helpful. So don't worry about that. And yeah, as you're joining, please let me know where you're watching us from, whether you are a student or a parent. And if you are a student or parent, what grade are you in if you're a student, or what grade is your student in? And I do see that we have Ms. Jenna joining us today, saying hello. Hello to you. I hope you are having a great week. Thank you so much for coming back and joining us again. And thank you so much for commenting. And don't be shy. Remember, I always encourage you guys to join these live streams and not only to watch them, but to also comment, ask your questions. Because, when you ask questions, I can have a little bit more of an interaction with you. We can create a conversation, get a conversation going, and maybe you have a question that somebody else has and maybe they forgot the question or they don't even know they had that question, and vice versa. So it's good to have a conversation. It's good to have a little back and forth happening throughout these live streams. I see that Lilia is saying hi in the chat. Hello, Lilia. Thank you so much for accompanying us today. And today's presentation is Don't Make These Mistakes When Paying for College. The title of the presentation is I Was Wrong. There's a lot of parents, a lot of students that have come up to us, after they see a video or they see one of our webinars and they tell us, I was wrong for not doing these things in time when my student was in high school and my student was going through the college application process, and I missed out on amazing opportunities because I didn't know this in time. So today I will talk about the biggest mistake you as a parent or as a student you should avoid when paying for college. And all of this starts even before the student is, a freshman in college trying to pay their first tuition bill. There's a lot of things that can be done prior to that, things that students and parents sometimes fail to do, mistakes that they make. They don't do something on time or they do it incorrectly. So today I will share those mistakes with you, and I will also share, things that you can do as a parent or as a student, as a family, to avoid going into debt, to avoid having to pay a high tuition bill, things that you can do to maximize scholarships and financial aid. So it's going to be a very informative live stream. It's going to be full of information, full of personal anecdotes, personal stories that I experienced myself, stories that I have heard from other parents and students, mistakes that they've done, because sometimes people, or many times, if not all the time, people learn from their mistakes. So I'm going to share some mistakes with you so that you can learn from those mistakes and you can avoid going into debt. You haven't done so already, if you haven't registered for our free 1-hour training where we share with you the 6 secrets to go to college with scholarships, that link is also underneath this video. There is a free webinar which you can access and watch at any time. You can register for it. It's a free online training. This is a little, summary of what you will learn in this training: how to look for scholarships and financial aid, how to make your college application stand out, how to write a great college essay, understanding the 4 types of financial aid and scholarships available to students. There's a best college aid introduction, and there is also live chat support available throughout the entire webinar, throughout the entire training. So if you haven't done so already, I encourage you and I invite you to watch this amazing training because it is super, super helpful. It is filled with information that has helped thousands of students. There's been a lot of students, parents who have watched this training and who have benefited from it. So if you want to watch this training, click that link underneath this video's description. All right, so here are our social media handles where you can find us on each social media. If you want, this way. There you go. If you want to follow us on YouTube, if you're watching this on Facebook, all you have to do is go on YouTube and write Best College Aid USA. If you want to follow us on Instagram or TikTok, the handle is at Best College Aid USA in both platforms. And for Facebook, same thing as in YouTube is, Best College Aid USA. So if you want to follow us on that social media, feel free to follow us because we do post more content in those platforms, and it can be, different content that you will see here on Facebook and on YouTube. Additionally, we do go live on Instagram and on TikTok every Tuesday. So let me share that with you. This is our weekly live stream schedule. So on Mondays, we do, as you can see, Facebook and YouTube live streams in Spanish and in English. So at 1 p.m., we always have our Facebook and YouTube live streams in Spanish. And at 3 p.m., we have our English live streams on Facebook and on YouTube. And then for Tuesday, same thing, 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And we do it in the Instagram and TikTok platforms. And in Spanish is first and then English. So definitely screenshot this, save this so that you can join us and be present during our weekly live streams. Because as I said, we always share amazing information and free information. So why not stay on top and stay tuned with that. Alrighty, so why don't we go ahead and get started with today's presentation. What's the cost of college? Just to get kind of an overview of how much college can cost. All right, so this is a source. This image was taken from educationdata.org, and it's just kind of an estimate of how much going to college can cost, the cost of tuition. So if a student were to go to an in-state college, for example, I live in Florida, and if I were to go to, Florida State University, the average cost of tuition is $9,349. And then you add the additional expenses, which can be, fees, living on campus, all the insurance fees that a lot of schools do require students have, and many other fees that colleges, add to their tuition. So it just kind of piles up, and it can be a lot of money, as you can see. And the cost of attendance would end up being around $25,497. Of course, this is an estimate, and every state is different. And as you can see, if a student is going to a state university, because private universities are different, the tuition for a private institution is the same regardless of whether the student is from in-state or out of state. But that's a conversation for a different time. But I do want you to remember that, state schools or public universities, most state schools will have, for example, FSU or UF or UT Austin. The cost will be different for a student who is an in-state student. So a student from Florida, if they are going to Florida schools, or Texas, if they're going to a Texas school, to a student who is from Florida and is trying to go to North Carolina. So, for example, Francisco is the biggest example. He went to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and he was an out-of-state student, right? So his tuition cost was going to be higher because he was from out of state. But UNC was very generous and was a school that awarded a lot of merit-based and financial scholarships and aid, which I will talk about in a little bit. So Francisco managed to go there, by working hard and doing all the things that he had to do in high school, middle school, when he was applying to college, and he managed to get a full tuition scholarship, and he didn't have to pay anything towards tuition. So, don't think that just because there is a public school, a state school that you want to go, that it's in a different state, that it's just going to be super expensive, that there's things that can be done, but it's important to know those things, that it's going to be a little bit more expensive if you are an out-of-state student. All right, I got it in a little bit of a tangent, but let's really reel it back in. But this is just the cost of going to college. It varies, it's different. From school to school. As you can see, private institutions for a foreign year, the cost of tuition can be up to $35,000. Only the cost of tuition. You add the additional expenses, and that's about $17,000, which gives you a total cost of attendance of $53,217. Again, this is just an average, an estimate, but that's a lot of money. So college and going to college can get pretty expensive. But I don't want to scare you, and I don't want you to see these numbers and freak out and think, well, if it's so expensive, it's not worth it. I managed to go to a private college in New York called Marist College, which you can't read, but there's also a flag down there. My brother and I, David, we went to a private college, a private university up in Poughkeepsie, New York, and the cost of attendance at Marist was pretty high. It was above the $50,000 mark. But David and I did everything that we had to do, which happened even, before we even applied to the university. We went to Marist. We applied to Marist because we knew that it was a school that was very generous. They awarded merit and financial-based scholarships and financial aid. We knew which extracurriculars we wanted to do, and we made sure that Marist awarded scholarships, merit-based scholarships, based on these extracurricular activities. And so there are things that have to be done in advance. And we didn't only apply to Marist, we applied to other schools that were, that had those same types of opportunities, who were generous. A lot of students make the mistake of not putting effort into their college list. They'll just create a college list. It'll be something random. They'll throw schools in there because, the mascot is cool. They have a cool sports team. My dad went there. My aunt went there. It's gonna look cool if I go to Yale, or I don't know. That's just a random school. Actually, Yale is pretty generous when it comes to financial aid. But the point is that there has to be a whole process behind creating a college list and applying to colleges. And this is another mistake that students do, is not doing their research, not looking at schools that meet their needs. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So with that being said, let's go to the next slide. What's a mistake? All right, so let's fix this. All right, so reduce the cost with financial aid and scholarships. So the first thing that students have to know, and parents, is in order to reduce the cost of attendance at a school, the first step is finding and applying for financial aid and scholarships. So look for colleges, and this goes with, when I was talking about creating a college list, look for colleges that meet 100% of a student's financial needs. And also look for colleges that award merit-based financial aid and scholarships. So basically what all my siblings and I did. Francisco didn't just apply to UNC because it was a cool school. Of course he wanted to go there, but he also he wanted to go to a big university, like UNC, UF, UT. He fell in love with UNC, but the reason why he chose UNC to apply there was because he did his research and he found out that, even though UNC is a very competitive school, especially for out-of-state students, he found out that it met our family's financial needs. It was quite generous at awarding, financial-based need-based scholarships and aid, and also had a big, institutional scholarship history. So Francisco was able to attend an UNC not only because, they awarded him with financial aid, need-based scholarships, but the school also awarded him with a lot of merit-based scholarships. Francisco was a leader in high school. He was the president of his class his sophomore, junior, and senior year. And, UNC awarded this. And UNC has a history of awarding students for these types of things, So it's important to do your research. I wouldn't have applied to Marist, the school that I ended up going to, if I would have known that they didn't give financial aid, that usually, they met like 40% of a student's financial needs. I did my research and I found that Marist was really generous. And, when I applied, when I got accepted and I received my financial aid award, I was pleased and I knew what I was getting myself into if I did get accepted, because I knew that this school, was probably going to award some need-based aid to me. I applied for a theater scholarship and received $8,000 worth of a theater scholarship, which, I, of course, had to work really hard towards and audition, go through a whole audition process, but I did my research in advance, and I was able to receive this scholarship because I did my research, It wasn't just, oh, Laura does theater, she's going to get a theater scholarship. There was a whole process behind it. So if you're a student or a parent, remember, looking for the right college is not only about looking for academics, not only about looking for a cool sports team. It's about looking for the financial benefits that, this school is going to give to that family, to that student, and making sure that the family does their research and looks at colleges to a college list of schools that will meet the family's financial need is very important and has to be a big part of the student's, college planning process. Alrighty? All right, so moving on. So now we're going to talk about the meat and potatoes, the mistakes. What's a mistake that parents and students make when it comes to paying for college? The biggest mistake that people make is failing to complete financial aid forms. This is a huge mistake and we see it every year. Every single college is going to require the student and the parents to file the FAFSA, to complete the FAFSA. Certain colleges, there's not a handful, but around a few, I think it's a couple hundred schools that require the CSS profile, which is another type of financial aid form. And this aid, the federal aid, the institutional aid that a lot of colleges offer, works on a first come, first served basis. So let's kind of take this information and bring it back. So what parents do, what students do a lot of the time is, not filling out financial aid forms, not prioritizing these financial aid forms and the importance of filling them out on time and filling them out correctly. A lot of students say, and trust me, we hear this every year, and you might even be thinking this. My family makes too much money, or I'm an only child and both my parents work, so I'm not gonna get any FAFSA. That's what they say. I'm not gonna get FAFSA, so I'm not even gonna fill it out. Which maybe your parents make too much money, or they make a lot of money for you to qualify for federal aid. But I want everyone to remember that a lot of colleges require the FAFSA to award institutional or need-based aid. So just because you think that you might not qualify for federal aid awarded by the federal government, it doesn't mean that your college is not going to look at that form and use it to, determine whether or not they're going to give you institutional aid or institutional scholarships, which is basically scholarships given by the college. Unless the school, requires the CSS profile. The CSS profile, as I said, is not required by every school. Some schools do require it, and they use that to award their institutional aid. Make sure that you fill out the FAFSA, regardless of, if you're a USA student or a eligible non-citizen or a resident of the United States, if you qualify under the FAFSA requirements, make sure that you fill out the FAFSA, because colleges will use it many times to award scholarships and financial aid that comes from the college. Additionally, the FAFSA is also used to award federal, or to offer basically federal loans. And we always tell students, in the majority of time, in most cases, if a student were to take out a loan, taking out a loan for college is not the end of the world. There are things called healthy loans. Usually federal loans, subsidized and unsubsidized loans, happen to be the healthier loans students can, take, because there is a grace period where interest is not accumulating, when the student is in school. So if a student were to take out a loan, it's probably better to take out a federal loan. And if the student doesn't fill out the FAFSA, the financial aid forms, the federal government is not going to offer, or they will not be able to take out these loans. So keep this in mind. Don't make the mistake of thinking, I don't qualify for the FAFSA, I'm not going to do it, because you'd be surprised. A lot of money, millions of dollars go unclaimed every year. So you have to make sure that you fill out the FAFSA, because not only is it going to, help colleges determine how much institutional aid they can give you, but there's also some scholarship programs if you're applying to private scholarships that do require students to fill out the FAFSA, etc. So just fill it out. Trust me, it's worth it. All right, so another mistake that students and parents make is not applying to private or state scholarships. All right, so you've probably heard me use the words or the phrases institutional aid, institutional scholarships, federal scholarships. Now we're talking here about private or state scholarships. So quick recap, if you haven't been here during one of these lives. Private scholarships is basically scholarships that come from private sources, scholarships that can come from, individuals, organizations, companies, places like churches and stuff. These are all private scholarships. So they are different. Private scholarships are way different and are completely aside than from institutional scholarships, like the one I got for theater from my college, the college that I went to. So a private scholarship is a scholarship that can be given like the Coca-Cola Scholarship Foundation. Coca-Cola, the company, they do a scholarship program where they basically, students apply, they write an essay, fill out a whole application, go through the process, and then Coca-Cola chooses, some winners and awards them with a lot of scholarship money for them to afford their education, to fund their education. There's plenty of other, places, organizations, people that do this. Francisco, my brother who went to UNC, I keep pointing the wrong way, he received a leadership scholarship, private scholarship from Comcast. All he had to do was write an essay. So why am I talking about this? A lot of people make the mistake of not applying to private scholarships. And they tell us, private scholarships is so much work and it's so hard to get it. Well, yes, it's a lot of work, but it's worth it. There are thousands of scholarships out there, private scholarships, and it's about applying constantly, looking constantly, making sure that you are organized when looking for these private scholarships. You'd be surprised about the amount of scholarships available for students. And you'd be surprised about, how many people don't, apply for these scholarships because they never find them or they don't see them. Of course, the big scholarship programs such as, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Coca-Cola one, there are Ford does a scholarship program. Those are more popular. A lot of students are going to apply to those, but that's why it's important to look for constantly and apply for private scholarships, because you never know, you can find yourself, a very small scholarship or a scholarship that not a lot of students are aware of, and you can find and apply and receive money to pay to your college. I had a friend who wrote a scholarship about, an essay, applied for a private scholarship about, it was glasses, wearing glasses, reading glasses, and, she had to write an essay and talk about what it was like using glasses, wearing glasses. And this private scholarship was, it was from a private optometry, center near her house. She saw this scholarship opportunity, I think on like the newspaper for her town, and she applied and she got the scholarship. It was like $1,500 for just writing about wearing glasses and her experience. So make sure that you are looking and you're actively, trying to find scholarships, private scholarships, and applying for these, okay? As I said, I didn't say this, but let's clarify. There's over $6 billion in private scholarships available. So every year there's around $6 billion available in private scholarships. So there's plenty of scholarships out there. And another thing that I do want to say that a lot of students don't know, a lot of parents, is students can still apply for private scholarships well after, graduating from high school. They can apply for private scholarships when they are in college. They can apply for private scholarships when they're in grad school. So don't think that because your student graduated from high school, you graduated from high school and you're in your sophomore year of college, you can't apply for private scholarships, because you can. All right. So moving on to our next, tip or next mistake that people do when it comes to paying for college is not making a counteroffer. So what does this mean? There are ways to improve or to make your financial aid package better. And this usually should happen, or students should kind of appeal, or they should try to make a counteroffer when they first receive their financial aid award, when they get accepted into a university. This is the perfect time because you probably, or your students will hopefully be accepted into a couple of schools, 3 to 4 schools, and he or she will receive financial aid awards from each school. So there are ways to reach out to the Office of Financial Aid and, talk to them and try to counteroffer, try to, get a better deal. I did this when I went to Marist. I received my financial aid package. It was already really high, but I still needed, a couple $1,000s to make it just, perfect, and it be a tuition, it cover all the costs of tuition. I wrote a letter to the financial aid office where I basically try to appeal my financial aid award. And, in this letter, I talked about everything you can see in this slide. I compared my financial aid packages from the other universities that I was accepted into. And I basically told them, listen, this is my first choice. I really want to go here, but I'm not sure if I can go here with the financial aid award you gave me. I got this offer from this other university, and this is still my first choice, but the offer was higher there. Kind of try to negotiate, your financial aid award. I did that, and I received, I believe it was $3,000 more per semester. It was a reconsideration scholarship. That's what my college basically called it. And a lot of colleges have this, opportunity. At my school, I only had to write an email, basically a letter, because, nowadays it's rare the people who will write letters to the college. They can just email them. But there's other schools that do have a different process when it comes to appealing a financial aid award. At the University of Florida, there's a form that has to be filled out online. You have to go to their website and, enter the portal and fill out the form. Other schools have an email. Other schools you have to go do it in person, over the phone, etc. At the end of the day, the point is that there are ways to improve a financial aid award package. So make sure that if you're a student and you are, once you're in your senior year, you try to do this in order to improve your financial aid package. And this trick, a lot of parents don't do it, They fall a little short, or they didn't know that they could ask for a bit more money, and they either don't end up going to a specific school because it's $4,000 more expensive than the other, or they send their student to that school and they either take a loan to be able to afford that extra money, or they work extra hard and, they completely miss the step of trying to renegotiate a financial aid package. So make sure that you know this and you try this when your student is in college. Alrighty. And also renegotiating a financial aid award. You can do it. It's not only like that freshman year, or when the student gets accepted. It can be done at any point throughout college, because situations, personal situations do happen. Situations change, people, you might go through a family emergency. Your parents might have to move somewhere. Something might happen. And if something happens, it's always okay to go to the office of financial aid and try to get more money. Alrighty. All right. So, let's see. Inside of Best College Aid, we actually have a whole, video, a whole tutorial on the 5 tips to improve a financial aid package. David talks about and breaks down other things that can be done, not only this thing that I just shared with you. Additionally, if you want to sign up for our free training, our free 1-hour webinar, again, the link to this webinar is right here underneath this video. It says free webinar. You click on it and you will be redirected to our free training, 6 steps to go to college with scholarships. Make sure that you take advantage of this training. We give a lot of helpful information. A lot of people have taken advantage of this amazing, amazing training, and it's completely free. All you have to do is register. Have a fantastic week and a great Monday.